welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today is the woman who knows how to set personal boundaries, Alex Standy. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
And we're especially happy because we have a return guest joining us. This is a guest who joined us in April 2019. And the only scary part about it, fans, I didn't remember the visit. It's really awful. I'm so embarrassed. But our guest did remember it. The funny thing is she didn't remember it until the last minute, like, wait a minute, I've been on this show before. So we have a whole lot of missing gray cells going on here. But that's right. We're going to fill in the blanks here. It's going to be good. So first of all, Alex, blue hair again, right? Yep.
Yeah.
I say again because I don't remember the blue hair. I remember the purple hair. So,
It's always changing. Always changing.
I know. Well, that's part of your personality, right?
Yeah.
Even if you are the purple lady. I mean, you are. Let's be honest. The background is purple. Your clothes, your wedding is purple. Everything's purple with you.
Everything's purple. Purple is life.
Except when the hair is blue. Other than that. Yeah, but. Actually, the one serious question I have to ask you, I know I ask this every time. Are you feeling better? Are you still improving? Because you've been through a lot in the last couple of years.
Hold on 1 second. I had a call coming through and now my sound is ruined.
Well, okay. Well, we'll try to get past that.
Hold on. Let me adjust.
This is why I don't use a phone. This is why I use a laptop.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
There we go. All right. I'm back.
You can hear it. Okay. So let me rewind. Yeah. The serious question I was trying to ask is, with all the stuff you've been going through the last couple of years, I ask this every time. Every time the answer sounds good, but I want to ask you again, how are you doing? Are you feeling better? Are you continuing?
I'm doing much better. Yes.
Good.
I am completely healed as far as I'm concerned.
Good. Okay. So you just have to convince the medical facility. Is that it?
No, they're pretty, they said live on and prosper. That's what they said.
Good. So, okay.
Yeah.
So you're really past it then.
Yeah, I really passed it. Like, we didn't think it was going to work. It was a Hail Mary, but it worked so far.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I'm so glad because you've been through hell and back, and for you to get to
it wasn't fun. It was not fun.
No. Yeah. So congratulations. Really. That's fabulous.
Thank you.
Fabulous news. And, so anyway, the guest I was referring to is Ruth Cohen-Joyner. And I was like I was telling her before, actually Ruthi Cohen-Joyner.
Yep.
It's a name that is very big in my family because my wife's maiden name is Cohen, which is a very common name. And she had an Aunt Ruth who was known as Aunt Ruthi. So to have a Ruthi Cohen-Joyner on the show makes total sense to me. And it's like, as natural as butter on bread as far as I'm concerned. Now the only thing I need to do is remember the guest. But other than that, we're doing great here. So. But Ruthi, thanks for joining us again on the show. Thanks for being back here. Thanks for remembering that you were on the show previously.
Everything before the pandemic is like in the before times. It's a different world, right? Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, sometime back there. Yeah.
Absolutely true. It is. It's like BC and AD, right?
Exactly.
The clear divider. Yeah.
Yeah. It is.
Is BC before COVID?
Before COVID.
Yeah. BC before COVID. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to the after since we're really not there yet. We like to pretend we're in the after, but we're really not. So.
Well, I've been in the after myself for about a year and a half. I know that the rest of the population hasn't been, but that's the way I've been feeling like to me right now, it's the distant past. For most people, it's still the present, but for me, it's the distant past.
Well, I wish I could say that. My husband is a local health director, so his life is still dealing with it. And we went to Alaska in May, and that was our parting gift from Alaska. We came home with COVID.
Oh, lovely. Yes.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So it's still part of my life. And actually, my daughter has it right now, my 27-year-old.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
So I love that you get to see it in the past. And I'm like, yeah, still here. It's not as overwhelming. It's not
I still
running
see
our lives.
I mean, I run my wife's gardening service and maintenance business. We had 3 people down with COVID this summer. So it's not like I haven't seen it at all.
Right.
I think what it is for me is, well, first of all, since we're on third variant at this point, with each variant, are we on the 5th? Okay. Well, each variant, it gets a little bit less lethal, a little bit less of a problem, so there are still people who are going to succumb to it, but the numbers are much smaller than they used to be.
You're right. And let me clarify what I said. We're actually on the 5th version of Omicron, which
is that right?
the third variant. So now we're on the 5th of the third. How's that for weird?
That's like the 25th anniversary of the 28th birthday or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And my daughter explained it to me this way. She's a biologist. I guess she's graduated now. But anyway, that from a virus standpoint, this makes perfect sense, that the virus wants to keep us, the host, alive. So it has become less deadly and it spreads actually more easily, believe it or not. But because so many people have had it now, we're not as susceptible to it. So anyway, we will see. Hopefully, I guess it'll just be like the flu in the future, that there'll be little pockets here and there. And
well, actually, the flu is actually pretty lethal itself. It doesn't get a lot of attention for that.
It is.
Yeah. But yeah, hundreds of thousands of people succumb to the flu every year. So, it's not a minor thing. But
true.
Hey, I think the main point here is I think we are on, at least if we're not on the other side yet, we're certainly on the downslope. We're on the good part.
Yes. Yes. I don't know if they've changed it from a pandemic to a, what is the term? Endemic or something. I don't know that it's considered a pandemic because it's not all over the place at the same time all over the world. I'm not sure about that, but it's not running our lives like it was in 2020, right?
That's the most important thing at all. Yep. Because you really don't want a virus running your life. It doesn't work well. The results aren't very good. Yeah. No. It limits your horizons. It's not a nice thing. Although I will say this, there are a number of things that the pandemic did that opened people's eyes to stuff they weren't aware of before.
Yeah.
That is very big. People were appreciating stuff that they used to take for granted.
True. And then
still
I don't know what the statistic is on the number of people that have changed jobs or careers.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
Well, they call it the Great Resignation.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's big. It's huge. It's one of the comments I made when they first came out with that term, the Great Resignation, is that the pandemic managed to do what Congress couldn't do. It raised the minimum wage without actually raising the minimum wage.
True.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are benefits in here. That's actually part of the trick with law of attraction, is learning to look for where's the benefit. You can always find the gray cloud. Where's the silver lining?
Right.
Absolutely. And somewhere I heard the saying, well, that happened. Now where's the gift in it?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Looking at everything that way is beautiful, isn't it?
And if you can't find the gift, there's another thing you can do. You can recognize that, okay, if I can't find the gift yet, where's the payoff? Because there's always a payoff for hanging on to this junk. And when you can notice what the payoff is, the funny thing is the gift isn't far behind that.
True.
It's right nearby. You just have to kind of look. Once you find where the payoff is, the gift is going to be in there somewhere. Yeah. Well, this actually ties into what I wanted to talk about in greater detail because, well, last time we had you on, you led us through a tapping session, which was cool. Yep. And we didn't really get into the hypnotherapy part, although that would be cool to touch on that too. We've had other people do that, but still would like to take your take on that. But you're also an Akashic Records reader. Now, we've mentioned them. We've had a couple of people who even tried to define them. We haven't had any in-depth discussions about that topic. I figure, well, we got you on the show. This is a time to actually find out more about what those freaking records are all about. I mean, are we talking about a filing cabinet? What are we talking about here?
Some people do see it that way. So
do they really?
Yeah. So there was an Akashic Records summit that somebody did a couple years ago, and she asked all of her 20 or so guests that were on the summit, so what are the Akashic Records? That was the first question, because that's everybody's question, right?
Yeah, sure.
So 20 different answers. I mean, everybody answered it a little bit differently. So I'm going to give you my understanding, and I'm going to give you my understanding that I got while I was in the Akashic Records, which will make sense when you understand this a little more. So actually, I'm going to clear my throat. So let me mute myself a second.
I'm doing that a lot today, and I'm drinking water to try to compensate. So you're not
alone. It's like one of those days. I lost my voice this morning. It's crazy.
Did you?
I did, yeah.
There's something
I think it's a change in weather.
That might be.
Yeah.
Could be. Okay. So if you imagine the divine, however you your understanding of the divine. So God, Jesus, Buddha, angels, source, unified field, however you see the creator, whatever created all of us, we all have access to that level of support, love, and guidance. Okay. Now, if you don't believe in that, then you can just think of it as your higher self or your best self or whatever. Okay. So we all have that. And the way I see the Akashic records is, imagine that you have a little thought bubble above your head, like in a comic
like a
book.
cartoon. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The little cartoon above your head. And that is your soul's direct guidance. Okay. So your soul has specific guides. And the way I was taught is that we have a master guide. So there is a guide that is with your soul for eternity. So that gets into a big discussion about, do you believe in reincarnation? And is our soul an ongoing, eternal entity, I guess? So that if you believe that, then there is a master guide that is always with you, always supporting you. And then we have teachers and loved ones. So hang on one second. So the teachers are who are with you during rough times in your life. So if you're going through a major loss, then you've got some teacher on the other side, if you will, to support you during that. Loved ones can obviously be teachers. So past loved ones can support you from the other side with whatever. And my understanding is, in the Akashic records, they don't necessarily identify themselves. So you don't know this is Uncle Joe or Aunt Susie, but you know, you can feel a loving presence supporting you when you open your Akashic records. So where is this? Well, I know if you're doing audio, you can't see this, but I just
we can describe it.
Yeah. So this is just, my version of an Akashic prayer. And the way we get into the records is with a portal, and the prayer is the portal. So when you say this prayer, and like I said, I have my version of it, probably hang on, I shouldn't grab the book because people can't see it. The person that I think of as the biggest authority on Akashic records is Linda Howe. Linda Howe with an E on the end, Howe.
Okay.
Linda Howe has written several books, and she has a prayer that you can access on the internet, so anybody can get to it. That's a little more formal than mine. I've made mine much more laid back, kind of fit the world a little bit better. Hers has got a lot of ritual in it.
It sounds like it fits you.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea is, or my understanding is, when you say this prayer, it's allowing you to tune in to your divine guidance, your particular guides that are there for you. So that's how I see it. So the prayer, I don't think it really changes anything. It just makes us more aware that we've got this guidance, because most of the time we're not paying attention.
This is true.
Yeah. We're tuned in to, I got to pay the bills or whatever.
Yeah, right. We're paying attention to that stuff. The important stuff.
Depending on how you look at it, right?
How you look at it, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that tells us how we get to them. What are they?
So that's a great question. My understanding, again, I keep prefacing it with that, because if you listen to, 20 other Akashic record readers, you're going to get different understandings. The way they first appeared to me was literally as books, purple books. So actually in a dream, yes. And Alex, purple and blue are my favorite colors too. So
because they're awesome.
Yeah. So the way I saw it was purple books. The file cabinet idea I've heard before, but a lot of people see it as a library, that there's literally a library in the sky, if you will. Maybe we need a human way of seeing these things, right? That it's not really this way, but it's a way that we can understand it. And that each person has their own Akashic record. So record like a book that you can access to learn about your past lives. So some Akashic record readers really focus on past lives. And mining past lives for information. That's not really my focus, but it is for a lot of readers. So when I do an Akashic record reading for someone, I usually share with them whatever I start getting first. Mm-hmm. And then I let them start asking questions. And it's not predictive like tarot cards or astrology. It's your soul's guidance. So it's more confirmative that you're on the right path, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And in the beginning, when I first did training, 2018, I think, again, back in the before times, I get a little confused. Was it 17, 18? I'm not sure, but I did 3 different trainings with different people, different places, before I started doing it, for money. That I forgot where I was going with that. What was I going to say about why I was bringing up the trainings?
I don't know. I
don't
can't
either.
think of anything to help you. That's the worst part.
Oh, well, so with the Akashic Records, you're just tuning in. And what I was going to say about when I work with people is that we're just looking for whatever comes through. And it's kind of in the beginning, this is what I was going to say. I didn't trust it at all. I was like, how in the world am I getting information from somebody else's guidance? This doesn't make a bit of sense. Mm-hmm. Until I had a few instances of, there's no way I could have known that. That is freaky. So can I give you one of those stories?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
We love freaky stories.
Okay, cool. So I live in North Carolina, and in North Carolina, if you know North Carolina at all, 2 well-known schools here are UNC Chapel Hill, otherwise known as Carolina, not the one down in South Carolina. Oh. And the color for Carolina is light blue, sky blue. Sky blue is Carolina blue. Okay.
Right.
Duke University is also in North Carolina. Their colors are dark blue. So more close to a navy, real dark blue. Okay. Right. So I was doing a reading for someone that I did not know. Don't even remember how she found me, how I was doing the reading, but I knew she was from North Carolina. And in the reading, at the very beginning, I said, I'm just picking up blue. So I forgot to say this part. I get a lot of stuff in readings as either song lyrics or movies or color. So it comes to me in ways that don't necessarily make sense to me. Okay.
Okay.
So I can give you another story about that in a minute. But anyway, so I said, I'm picking up blue, dark blue. I said, so there's this blue. And in her session, at some point, I said, I'm still getting the blue, but I'm getting a sense we should just ask for healing for you. And so I said, so we're just asking your Akashic guides to support you in healing. And I said, wow, I'm still getting blue, but now it's not Duke blue, it's Carolina blue. And she burst into tears.
Oh.
And I was like, okay.
What did I say?
What is this about? Well, it turns out, and I did not know this, that her son had passed away with leukemia, if I'm remembering this correctly, at 16 years old. And this had happened 4 or 5 years before I met with her. When he was sick, he was in the hospital at Duke. And he was a big Carolina fan. So for her, the color changing from Duke blue, that time of illness when he was in the hospital and dying, to Carolina blue, felt like such confirmation of him being okay on the other side. And I mean, it was just one of those moments of, wow, this shit works. So oops, am I allowed to say that? So it was kind of mind blowing for me.
Much worse things have been said. Don't worry about it. Yeah, that's really something.
Yeah.
And to include both the schools, by the way, because I mean, that's an intense sports rivalry.
That is true.
UNC and Duke is an intense, like almost, armed battle. It's really, so to have both of them involved in that story, that makes it just 10 times better.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's pretty cool. Yeah, and I recently did a reading for somebody, and The Wizard of Oz came up. I was talking about the Yellow Brick Road, and she also had that woe, and she said, I watched that movie literally 1,000 times. I am not kidding. I have seen it 1,000 times. That I watched it with my son when he was little. I know it up and, just so know that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it just came up to me, the Yellow Brick Road. Well, I figure most people, at least in the United States, I don't know about all around the world, at least know the Wizard of Oz well enough to know the Yellow Brick Road. I had no idea it was such a big deal to her, that movie had such significance for her when I brought it up. So that's the fun thing about doing readings for people is I never know what's going to come through and what it's going to mean to somebody else.
Right.
Yeah, I can see that. Now, I actually did a little research because I wanted to know a little bit more about the etymology of it, the origins. And the word Akashic is an Indian word coming from Akasha, which has a number of different meanings, but the current most contemporary meaning is sky. It can also mean cosmology, or it can mean space. But it refers to, in some form, an area, if you will, an area of openness, and of, like outer space would be open, or air would be open, or something along that line. And that's an interesting thing, because what the words Akashic records, or reading Akashic records, suggests is kind of getting records from another world, from space. It's kind of what it infers there. So again, I don't know totally about the origins of it. That's all I was able to dig up, but kind of intriguing.
So along those lines, I'm just glancing at my website. So my website is yourtappingjourney.com. And if you go to the section that says work with me, there's a tab that goes to the Akashic records. Right. So I'm just reading this from it. It says, the Akashic records are an experiential body of knowledge known as the Akasha that holds everything we have ever thought, done, and said since our soul's creation and all its future possibilities. In Hinduism, Akasha means the essence of everything that exists in the material world. So that's slightly different than what you're saying.
I won't disagree. That sounds good to me.
Well, it's the idea that everything that exists in our world came from the Akasha. The Akasha is the essence of everything that exists in the material world. So
the part that's really curious to me is the record part.
I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, why a record? It almost makes it sound like, the Book of Judgment. Oh, this is in your record. You're in trouble now.
Yeah. I mean, I get where you can look at it that way, but I think it's much more about, I see it more from the guidance side, more from the loving support, that here's this place. I guess it's because I connect more with the guidance than the record part. That here's where I can get support and guidance that I can't get anywhere else. Can't get it, here you can ask everybody their opinion and you're going to get how many opinions, right?
One of our listeners is in the live stream, Nicole, and she says, it's a thought form in energy.
Yeah. That's a great way of looking at it. Yeah.
A thought form. Okay.
Yeah.
Or a universal library.
Yes, exactly. It is a universal library.
Okay. Very interesting. So when you're reading the Akashic record for yourself or for somebody else, what is it that, I know you don't try to go in with expectations, so I'm trying to think what the best way is to phrase this. What kind of information are you thinking you're likely to encounter? Great
question, Walt. So what I think works best is to have a question before you go into the records. So if, so I was working with someone this morning and she's trying to decide when she can leave her 9-to-5 job that's paying the bills, but in her words, sucking the soul out of her. And so she's trying to
identify that. Yep.
Yes, exactly. So she's trying to figure out, how do I move to being in private practice, doing my own thing, etc.
Yeah.
And yet I've got a mortgage and I've got kids and I'm on my own. So yeah, I mean, that's the reality of life, right? And so with the records, it's a way of tuning in to guidance about how you do it. Now, one thing I've learned is that it's best not to ask when. They're not going to say next March, you'll be able to quit your job. It doesn't work that, it's not that specific. But she can get yes. So when we were together, she said, yes, I am feeling I am meant to do this. I am meant to do it. And the way will show itself to me. So she made a kind of a list of things that she wanted to work on while we were working together that she was getting from her guidance. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Like she was saying, okay, well, if I go ahead and figure out how to start an email list, then I can start communicating better with my potential clients. See what I'm saying? So that was just one piece that she got. So it's not necessarily all esoteric. Sometimes it's very, what's the word I'm trying to say? The opposite of esoteric, very practical, very practical.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get very practical guidance at times.
I guess the technical term we would use is that it's not woo.
The technical term.
I don't know. Is it woo and woo works? Because isn't law of attraction woo in a way? I mean,
are you kidding? It's total woo.
Exactly. But
how much woo do you want to woo?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But thinking about the law of attraction, so I'm just going to go back to this person today. What we ended up doing was, now imagine yourself doing this. What does it feel like to work with the clients you want to work with? What does that feel like, sound like, be like? So I was trying to get her to get into the way to attract this in is to feel it, believe it, see it, visualize it, put your energy into it. Instead of, I hate this job, it's sucking my soul. You know what I mean? Change your energy, change your shift. So
that does seem to be the consistent pattern I've seen whenever I've seen anyone reference Akashic records or talk about how they use them, that kind of thing. It seems to be approached as a tool for helping somebody to move forward spiritually. It isn't so much about what's in the record itself, it's how it's used.
Yes. And it's not only spiritually, it's in life in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, she's looking at it from a career standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But quite frankly, spiritually, she's got to make some shifts before it's going to happen career-wise.
Which is true for almost anything.
True.
Because we as humans want to interact with the outer world because that's why we're here. We came into this physical world to be, spiritual, energetic beings having a physical experience. That's why we're doing this. Mm-hmm. And in that spirit, if you'll forgive the use of that particular word at that point, we want to interact in all ways, and we want to understand what's the best way to interact, and we want to basically leverage the experience the best way we can. And yet the teachings we all get remind us that in order to do that, we have to connect internally. Yes. It's the internal connection that enables us to get to that point, which is, I don't know why that's such a hard thing. I mean, it is for some reason. For whatever reason, we have the most trouble with that. Maybe because there's not an obvious direct correlation between the two. Maybe that's what it is.
Is it that, or is it how we've been taught?
Is there a difference?
Ooh, that's a good question.
You don't know what you don't know until you know,
That's it. So, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's definitely what we're taught. Well, it isn't so much that we're taught specifically that, it's that we're taught stuff that discourages anything but that.
Yes.
It's like, it's like, what can we do to don't go inside. Whatever you do not look at the man inside. That's the devil in there.
Well, it made me think of the Wizard of Oz again, right? You've got the big wizard up here.
Don't look the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, exactly.
The great and powerful Oz has spoken. That was like the fact that the great and powerful Oz was this little old guy with white hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who described his, how was he described by the group? Oh, he was a humbug, wasn't he? Yeah. I think it was the phrase. Was it a humbug?
I don't remember.
Something like that.
I watched The Wiz, so.
Yeah, they kind of changed the text around a little
bit. Yeah, we had Richard Pryor as our wizard, so. Which
is a great choice, by the way.
Cool.
Fact.
Yeah. Really great choice.
Mm-hmm. Great choice in casting all the way around.
Yeah, that was a beautiful, beautiful presentation, beautiful production. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think humbug was the word, if I remember correctly. And the wizard had to agree, yeah, I really am a humbug.
Well, another funny thing going back to the Wizard of Oz and is Dorothy finally realizes there's no place like home.
Yeah.
And if you think of your home frequency, you're tuning into you as home. Yeah. Doesn't that fit in with what you're talking about going within to find your answers and to create whatever you want to create? It's got to come from within.
Yeah. Because it was always interesting. She was always had the means to go home with her because she was wearing the ruby slippers, but she didn't recognize that was the means to get home.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where we are at as spiritual beings living in this physical experience. Very often we don't realize we have the means to go home right within us. It's right there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to take that trip down the yellow brick road.
You do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Say goodbye to the munchkins and head down the path.
Yeah.
And there's going to be scary stuff along the way.
Oh, yeah. Lions and
But
tigers
also
and bears, let me tell you.
People.
Say that again?
Also interesting people.
Very interesting people.
Yes.
Yeah, you meet scarecrows and you meet the Tin Men and cowardly lions. I love the cowardly lion. He was wonderful.
Yeah. You find your bravery and your intelligence and what's the other one? A heart.
And a heart.
Right?
Yeah.
And isn't that the truth for everything?
Mm-hmm.
True.
It really is. Yeah. Yeah, the cowardly lion, I have a particular warm spot in my heart for him because he tries so hard to be scary and he's absolutely timid.
True.
He even has the best song about courage. I love that.
I agree.
All right. Now I need to go watch both the original Wizard of Oz and the Wiz. I want to mind.
The Wiz is a bop. Let me tell you. Oh my God. Michael Jackson plays the Scarecrow.
Okay.
What's his name? Nipsey Russell plays the Tin Man, I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure who plays the Cowardly Lion. And Diana Ross is Dorothy. So
there was a brilliant cast. Absolutely.
Wow. Okay. I wonder if I can find it
every
on
song
Netflix
hit.
or
it's around somewhere. Go to Amazon, whatever. Somewhere it's going to be on
might
there.
be on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
I would think.
Cool.
But yeah, good stuff. Really good stuff. And you're right. That whole movie was just one great big teaching tool.
It is.
Yeah. Both movies. Doesn't matter which one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, let's go back to Akashic Records because I'm still kind of curious. We've kind of uncovered a good portion of it. And we understand now that Akashic Records get used as a tool to help somebody on their spiritual journey, particularly when they're trying to tie it into their physical experience. They're trying to find some ways to make their physical experience more desirable, more fun, more whatever, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
What else, though, can you do with Akashic Records? Because I can't imagine that that's the limit of it.
Well, I don't think there's a limit to anything. Personally, I use it with EFT. So emotional freedom techniques, EFT or tapping, I feel like doing it with the Akashic Records is like tapping on steroids. It just makes it so much better that this tool that is an energetic tool, an emotional energetic tool, if you will, when you add the spiritual component in it, is just that much better. So
why do you think that is?
Well, the saying, everything goes better with bacon. Maybe everything goes better with spiritual guidance.
All right. Okay. Hey, I can't disagree with that because every time I've ever explored something along that line, it's always gotten better. So no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just think it's 1 + 1 = infinity, that it's not that, it really makes a huge difference. And the other thing I like about the Akashic Records is that I teach people how to do it for themselves. I can do readings for people, but it's way more useful for you to know how to do it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important for all of these tools. I mean, it's always good to have a coach. Coaching is excellent. I've had many guests say everyone should have a coach. And you know what? I buy into that. I think there's a lot of value to that.
Yeah.
But there's also value in learning how to do it yourself because that's where you do your best growth, I think.
I think so too. And when I work with people, it's for a season. It's not an idea of, okay, I'm going to be here with you for the next 10 years. No, 3 months, 6 months, whatever, until you're feeling like you're ready to do it on your own. And I have several clients who will buy a 12 session package and do it for however long and then say, you know what, I'm just going to bank those for later. And they'll just call when whatever is going on and say, hey, I need another Akashic record reading, or I need another tapping session, or whatever. And so
Now, how do you apply one to the other? That's the question I have.
So my tapping sessions, I call tapping into the Akashic field, because we open the records at the beginning. Yeah, I know, right? I had to come up with some way to put it together. Open the records at the beginning, and then we use tapping as a tool, or hypnotherapy, which you mentioned that I'm a hypnotherapist too. Whatever I feel led, whenever the guides tell me will be best for working with this client. And so bring it together. But that's a different level. So let me just give you an analogy that I like to use, that if you think of your dental health, everybody brushes their teeth every day, hopefully, and hopefully twice a day at least. So you're doing dental health care at home, right? You've got your own way of doing it, your own routine. And then if you needed a cavity filled or a root canal or whatever, you'd go to an expert, a dentist, right?
Right.
Well, that's how I see tapping in the Akashic records. If you learn to use them, and whichever one you feel led to, like obviously both for me, but not everybody is going to be led to both of them. If you use those on a regular basis to enhance your everyday life, like meditation. I mean, I meditate every single morning. It just feels weird not to start the day with meditation now. Been doing it for, I don't know, 10 years or something. But you know what I'm saying? That it's kind of a way of doing your spiritual, self-care.
Yes.
So, and then when people are working on bigger things, they come to somebody like me to support them in it. So.
I love the use of the term self-care.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we love self-care.
Yeah. Yeah, we really do. And it's important on so many levels. To apply it in this topic makes it even more interesting, because it kind of opens up the horizons a little bit, doesn't it? It basically says it's beyond, having a massage or doing yoga or walking in nature. Here's another angle, another aspect that you hadn't perhaps been using before that you can use.
Yeah. In addition to those, because I love all of those.
Sure.
I want to, yeah.
Because you need to work on inward as well as outward. So it just makes sense to add that to your repertoire.
And the real trick is working on them together.
Yeah. I think that's what
trick.
People don't get. Yeah.
Well, it's a real trick because we humans are able to concentrate with intensity on one thing in a big, big way. We are challenged when we're focusing on two things. And if your goal is to focus internally, but you're also focusing on a technique, that's a double focus. Not that I'm not saying there's anything wrong with techniques. Techniques are great. Everything from meditation to Akashic record reading to, you fill in the blank. There's like a whole bunch of them. They're all wonderful. But by the same token, the challenge is, can you perhaps start that and then end up inside? Because it's really hard to focus on both because you can, that's where you want to get to, but it's so easy to try to get hung up on, well, should I be focusing here or there, here or there, here or there? And you kind of like stay in the middle and you don't really get to that internal place because you're constantly checking, well, am I doing the method right? Am I journaling correctly? Am I meditating correctly? Am I doing all this stuff? We get hung up on this kind of thing.
I was going to say hung up. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can, but think about it like driving a car. When you're first learning to drive that car, you're paying attention to how many seconds has it been since I checked the rear view mirror?
Yeah.
All the things that you learn to do in the beginning. Well, now you drive a car without thinking about any of that.
Right.
So the idea is to get as comfortable with whatever tool that you're just doing it without having to think about how to do it.
That's exactly
whatever
right.
it is you choose.
Yeah. But
and that's not to say you can't learn new things. Of course you can.
But it's not as easy as learning to drive a car. That was easy by comparison. This stuff's harder because there are so many distractions. There really are.
It depends because driving is very hard for me because of the distractions. I can only focus. So for different people, it's like I might find Akashic records maybe easier than driving for a person like me. You know what I'm saying? So different people, different strokes for different folks.
Is that because of the Asperger's, you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I've heard, I tried to learn mindful meditation where you keep your eyes open
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, no way. I don't like this with my eyes open. I want my mask on so everything is closed out so I can go within. I need to
now
really
for me,
go
that's
within.
dissociating, and I do that naturally. So much easier.
And
I can phase out of a conversation and just people be like, "What's wrong? What are you looking at?" And I'm like, "So I wasn't even here. I'm sorry."
So, Alex, are you saying it's easier for you to meditate with your eyes open than closed?
Definitely.
And when you're closed, your mind goes all over the place?
Yep, absolutely.
Interesting. Okay. Good to know. Yeah.
And I was going to add that for me, meditating quietly I can do it, but it's harder for me than it is to do a walking meditation in nature. That to me is much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a walking meditation on Insight Timer. I think before we got on air, we were talking about Insight Timer, which is a meditation app with like 21 million subscribers, and there's over 100,000 free meditations on there. And I have a meditation on there that is a walking meditation. It's called Sacred Walking Meditation. Anyway, I agree with you. Walking and meditation is beautiful. I love the two together.
I don't even have to think about that one. All I have to do is just start walking, and all of a sudden I'm soaking up, here are the trees and there's the sky and the clouds and all that. I'm just right there. It makes me more present than any other activity I can think of.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Because really that's what present is. I'm going to experience what's right here in front of me. I'm not going to be thinking about stuff. I'm not going to be worrying about what happened yesterday or tomorrow or anything like that. It's just, leaf, green leaf. Very pretty green leaf. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
I've done a fantasy walking meditation. So it's like you don't actually go anywhere, but it's not trees and leaves. It's more dragons and castles.
Ooh.
So that was fun. And then, I'm visualizing in my head walking up the stairs of the castle and seeing the drawbridge and all that stuff. And I enjoyed that. And I felt like I focused more. I got to sleep easier when I used to listen to that as a kid.
Interesting. So you do kind of like a video game version of meditation.
In my head, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it was a friend of mine who was teaching me Reiki at the time gave it to me, and I cannot for the life of me find it anywhere.
But still.
You know what? It may be worth going on Insight Timer and looking to see if there's something similar. They have meditation specifically for kids that have a lot of fantasy stuff. There may be something very similar on there.
Interesting.
Be worth a try.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's free. So Insight Timer is free. There is a paid version, but the free version has all the meditations. So yeah, it'd be worth checking that out.
That's like the VR form of meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. Have you ever thought of going into game design? I mean, no, that's another question.
Yeah, you're getting way in a different world now.
All right. I think we covered a lot, probably most about Akashic Records, but I want to go just a little bit deeper if I can.
All right. I'm going to go ahead.
Because with Akashic Records, the part that I keep coming back to is the word records. Like it does seem to have a finality to it.
You never remember being told that this was going to be put on your permanent record? That's what they were talking about.
Ooh.
See, that's scary. That's a scary concept.
But is it really?
Why does it have to be scary, though?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, but...
Well, where are you coming from that it's scary? I'm interested.
Well, the reason I say that it's scary is that if we take it from the context of somebody who is exploring it starting from the physical realm rather than starting internally, in the physical realm is surrounded by a whole bunch of judgment. It's like, it's saturated with judgment. So the moment that you talk about anything that's a permanent record, anybody who is feeling and thinking from the physical viewpoint is going to start to feel intimidated because that's what they've been trained to feel. That's what they've been trained to think. That's why I say it's kind of like the obvious response. The moment that we're told it's in writing, that's permanent, that it's, it's forever. Oh my God. Do they have access to that thing that I did that nobody should know about. It's like, you know.
Well, let's look at a different perspective of that. So I get
Sure.
where you're coming from, especially from school or,
Yeah.
you know, an arrest record
There's
or
so
whatever.
much fear associated with all that.
Yes,
kind of
I totally get that. But if you look at the universe as a loving, supportive place, and I'll give you a quote from Sarah Landon, if you know who Sarah Landon is, Sarah without an H, and I think her website's just sarahlandon.com.
Mm-hmm.
And the quote is, and I'm looking up at it, so if you're watching, I'm looking up. I choose to know everything is happening for me. I choose to know everything is happening for me. So what you view as a mistake you made in school or wherever in life, or thing you don't want anybody to know about, as a learning opportunity, and what did I get out of this? What did I learn? Then wouldn't it be okay to have that in your permanent record? Because, when I had that wreck, I learned not to follow so close, or whatever it was you learned. I'm using a very benign example there that, you know, instead of something really big. So how does that land with you, Walt? Does that help make it less scary to think about a permanent record that way?
Sure. Well, I'm trying to, in a sense, play devil's advocate. I'm trying to explore it the way a lot of people would have explored. So that's why I was expressing it that way. But yeah, I think that does help. Actually, when you phrased it, you kind of prefaced it by saying that the universe is here to help. It's a loving place. It's a caring place and so forth. It reminded me of the Einstein quote. He says, I think the most important question facing humanity is the universe a friendly place? It's the first and most basic question all people must answer for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, that's my favorite Einstein quote, just saying.
Yeah. Well, and that gets into, well, at least the way I learned it. There's, I'm sure, many different ways of learning it. Michael Bernard Beckwith teaches, what is it called? The 4 stages of spiritual development. And that I'm not going to remember all 4 of them, but you'll get the main idea, is that the first one is the victim stage. Everything is happening to me.
Yes.
You know, he did this to me, she did that to me, blah, blah, blah. And that whole idea of life's not fair, the universe is against me, whatever, you know, that victim mentality. And we've all been victims, right?
Sure,
we've all had
absolutely.
things happen. But when you're able to switch that viewpoint to everything is happening through me or as me, you know, however far you're getting in your development, where you realize that, wait a minute, this didn't happen to me. This actually happened for me. So that happened. Where's the gift in it? What can I learn? Where can I grow? How does this support me in the long run?
Yeah.
I mean, if you had met me in 1990, my dad had just died from cancer, and I thought the world had come to an end. Now I can look back at that and I can say, look at all the beautiful things that happened because of that. Right? So I would have never chosen for my dad to have died so young and whatever, but I can see the gifts in it now. I can see all the beautiful things. That's just an example that I've gotten out of the victim mentality, even though I was stuck in it for a long time.
But it's a valid example. It's a great example. And it really illustrates very nicely the fact that what we're really trying to accomplish here is to find a different way of thinking and feeling about events and things and people and so forth that we really don't like very much.
Well, it's interesting. You went to the people and the events we don't like so much. But yeah, you're right. The events for sure.
Events, people, things, experiences, whatever they are. I mean, I was
the nouns.
Everything that you could possibly have that happens in life.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it is. Because we're going to have stuff thrown at us all the time. That's what it's like to live in a world of polarity and contrast. Welcome to it. Enjoy the ride. Tickets can be paid at the bursar office. I mean, that's just what you signed up for. That's what you're here for.
Right. We chose to be here.
Yeah. And if you're going to be here, which you are, and you chose to be here, well, you may or may not believe that, but it doesn't really matter whether you believe it or not. Guess what? You're here. Welcome. So if you're going to be here, why not enjoy it? Why not find a way to actually feel good about it? And that's what the real trick is. That's what enlightenment is. I was making fun of the word enlightenment on somebody else's program today. We were having a fun time. Enlightenment. I feel so enlightened. But, we get all wrapped up about these terms, but really that's what it's all about, is just what can you do in order to experience the journey better, to experience it in a way that feels better, that you like.
Absolutely.
Because that's the whole trick. That's what all these techniques and Akashic records and meditations and journaling and all this other stuff, that's what it's all about. How can you find a way to enjoy the journey more? Because when you can, and it can be done, by the way, when you can do that, then life can get magical.
Exactly. That's where I wanted you to go with it. That once you start living that way and seeing it that way, synchronicities, if you can say the word, start happening, right? The things do get magical.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what the interesting thing from my perspective about that magical side is? The first time that I noticed it, it startled the hell out of me. It almost scared me a little bit. Like, what the frig is happening here?
So what happened? Do you remember that example? What was the...
Oh, I'm not sure if I can remember the very first one. The one that's coming to my mind was a series of events. I'll give you the potted history that I've told listeners 1,000 times, so listeners bear with me for a couple minutes. But in 2008, with the financial crisis, my business and my wife's business both got wiped out with a stroke of a pen. We were completely without income. Terrified. 4 years later, when I started the podcast, we were deep in debt. We were struggling to survive. It was not a pretty picture at all. And I started the podcast mainly so it was the only way I could think of to bring people in to help me figure out how the law of attraction worked and how to improve all this stuff, because I couldn't even afford to buy a book, let alone hire a coach. I mean, it was that bad, So going through that journey first of all, it has colored my understanding of how all this stuff works. It has been like the foundation for how all this stuff works. Mm-hmm. And when it got to the point where 2012 to 2014, which to the question that you were asking, that's when I was finally starting to open up to what actually goes on in my own life beyond the obvious physical stuff. And the particular period that comes to my mind is in 2013 to 14, that winter period. Well, actually the whole sequence starts the previous summer when we found our cats that came into our lives. But there was a whole sequence of events that were, to my mind, impossible because of where we were at. My wife came to me. We were living in Virginia at the time. She came to me and said, I really don't want to live here anymore. We've been there for 11 years. I really want to move back to New England, because we were both from the New England area. And I said, I don't object to that. I just don't know how we're going to afford to do it. And so we just kind of said, well, we'll just figure it out, because we don't really know how it's going to happen. The money's gone. The money's been gone for a long time. All we got is, unpaid credit card bills. And, we were literally, in my opinion, we were probably about 6 months away from being homeless. It was that dire. Mm-hmm. And then, I'm trying to think, how much of this should I tell? We came to Connecticut looking for a place to live and for a job for her. My job on the internet was meager, but it was still there. So at least I had a little bit of income there. She had almost nothing. We came here looking for a job and for a place to live, found nothing, had to go back with our tails between our legs. Found a way to come up with another, $20 or so to pay for the gas to come up here a second time. Long story short, we found a place to live. We found a job for her. Okay. We drive home. Really weird trip home, by the way. We had a rental car. No, that's right. No, that was the rental car. Yeah, we had the rental car for that one. And, we left Connecticut this was in late December. Temperatures were in the 40 to 50 degree range. By the time we got to Virginia, 10 hours later, temperatures were below zero.
Ooh. What?
Whoa. It was stunning.
Wow.
It was a stunning drop over, the time that we're driving. We're watching the temp, you have a thermometer in your car. We're watching it drop. Like, what the hell? Are we going into frozen hell? What's going on here? So that was like a precursor. That was just like, laying a little bit of foundation up for what was about to happen. What was about to happen is we had 2 weeks to make the move because she had to get to Connecticut in time to start her new job. And anyone who's ever tried to move house in 2 weeks knows how insane that proposition is. We had not 2, but 4 cats we had found who needed to find homes, because we had to find homes for 2 of them because we could only take 2 of them with us under the new lease that we had in Connecticut. We had 2 vehicles that really could not make the trip, but we were hoping we could get one of them there just long enough so we could drive it around until we could actually afford to buy a car.
Mm-hmm.
And what proceeded to happen over those next 2 weeks, and by the way, we were using up the last of our retirement funds to make the move. So the bank account was about to go to zero. That's what we were dealing with. And what happened over that 2 week period just blows my mind. We didn't actually find homes for the cats. We had to deliver the cats to a no-kill shelter. So a shelter that actually kills the animal if they can't find a home for them.
Wow.
But the days leading up to the move, we had an old Toyota Camry with 235,000 miles on it and a Ford Ranger with about 180,000 on it. We were hoping we could hang on to the Ranger. I was doubtful that it could actually make the trip to Connecticut, but if we could just find a way to get it there, that we could drive it around for 5,000 miles until we could get something.
Mm-hmm.
The Camry, I would put it on sale, and all I was asking was $800. Just give me $800 for the car. That'll help us, to make the move and so forth. But I would settle for $500. And the day before we made the move, I get a call from somebody, and he comes over to look at the car. Now, I had just driven to the store in the car. I came back. I opened up the hood for him to look at. He pulls up the dipstick and says, "There's no oil in the engine." I said, "I just drove it 20 miles.
Wow.
It didn't crack the block."
Wow.
He said, "Well, I can't give you 800, but I can give you 500. I said, "Well, I'll take it because that was my minimum price, right?"
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he doesn't drive it off. He brought a trailer with him. He trailers it off.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he bought the trailer before he even knew that it didn't have any oil in it.
Wow.
Okay. So the moving day comes. Now, we had negotiated with the moving van. We're trying to figure out how to get the Ranger with us, right? Because I don't really dare drive it. I'm not sure it's going to make the trip. He says, "Well, I can tow it behind the moving truck." I said, "Oh, could you? That would be wonderful." He shows up on the day of the move. "I can't do it. My insurance won't let me do it." Now I have to figure out how to unload a Ford Ranger in Virginia the day that we're moving.
Oh my gosh.
One of his employees comes up and says, "Are you selling the truck?" I had hoped when we got to Connecticut, after we found a new vehicle, I could get maybe $1,200 for it. I said, "Sure, what do you want to offer?" He says, "I'll give you $1,500. The owner of the company says, "No, it's not worth that. Give him $1,200. So I sold the truck on the day of the move to one of the guys moving us for $1,200.
Well,
they get us all packed up. We drive north. We arrive at 4:30 in the morning, about a half hour ahead of the truck. We have a mattress in the apartment. That's all there is. We throw that down. We sleep for a half an hour, and then the phone rings. The moving van's outside. They want to move us in. Okay, they move us in. We're really short on sleep now, but we do get a little bit of sleep. The next day we get up. We got to get a car because we don't even have a car right now. We left all the vehicles in Virginia. We're in a rental. We can't afford the rental.
Right.
So we go to the local car dealer. We go to the car dealer. First one we go to, we were a Toyota family, so we went to a Toyota dealership, not really close to where we live, but fairly close. And the best they had was a car that I really couldn't afford, and we needed 2 cars, not one. We needed 2. So we kind of put some money down just to hold it, but it really wasn't what we wanted. Next day we go to another one. This one's actually very close to where we live. It's another Toyota dealership. It's January, roughly around the 14th, something like that. We're about 6 hours away from a major snowstorm.
Mm-hmm.
ooh.
And we go into the dealership and we just lay out our life as an open book. Like, look, we're in desperate strait here. We know you probably can't do anything, but we just came in just in case you can do anything. And we went back and forth with them, and they were trying so hard to help us. And they finally, long story short, they finally ended up suggesting to us, "Well, here's what we can do. We can give you a lease on a new Camry." And I said, "I can't afford that. I've already been there for that deal." No. We're going to give it to you at our cost. So nobody ever gets this. we got 40% off on a new car lease.
Wow.
That's what's up.
Wow.
And then we needed a car for Louise too. And they had a used car, and she didn't really like it. And she was getting a headache at this point. She says, look, I need to go home. I need to go put my head down. We're both like sleep deprived, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she gets in the rental car and leaves. And the assistant manager comes over and says, where'd Louise go? I said, well, she's exhausted. She needs to go home. She says, no, get her back here. We're going to give her a Corolla with the same 40% discount on the lease price. So
nice.
Two people who at that point had pretty poor credit records, had no money in the bank, had only basically one daycare job and a really poor web service business as their income, drove off the lot with 2 brand new cars.
Wow.
Nice.
And then after that, then the next thing was, well, she goes to her first day of work and injures herself, and she can't continue to work. What are we going to do then? Well, one of the 2 businesses that we had to shut down in 2008 because the financial crisis wiped us out was her gardening business. So we tried to start that up again, and all of a sudden they start calling us up. And that ultimately became the vehicle for us to recover. So that 2-week period produced insane results.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard for the mind to handle.
It is. It sounds like there was so much of a major leap of faith there.
Yeah, well, it was more of a desperation leap of faith. Like, I have no idea what else to do. I mean, I am clueless on how to solve this. So universe, hey, it's up to you. Do something, It was that kind of a deal.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's what I mean when I was talking earlier. This stuff can be really disorienting when you first connect and first start recognizing the stuff going on. Like, what the hell just happened? And that was like over and over and over and over in a very short period of time. Yeah.
Same. I was like, yeah, right. Get real.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I think it's the normal human reaction, right?
It is.
Yeah.
But like Ruthi said, because of how we were taught.
Yes.
Yeah. It's true. So even when we're talking about something like Akashic Records, which is about as woo as it gets, it's gotten to the point now where, okay, yeah, sure. Tell me something more. I mean, I've long since given up on the idea that I can make sense out of all this.
But you know what's crazy right now? All of our Akashic records are like intertwined at this point in time right now.
Yeah, you're right.
That's crazy.
Now I'm just freaked out. That's all there is to it.
Well, all of our guides might be up there going, oh my gosh. No. We keep trying to teach them, but no, I'm just kidding.
Actually, what they're probably doing is just laughing. Oh, they are so funny. Oh my God.
Yes.
Let's be honest. It is funny. All this stuff is funny. It's often hard to find the humor, but when you can find it, oh my God, what else can you do but laugh?
Right. I mean, sense of humor about everything helps more than anything else, probably.
I think it does. Yeah.
Very true. Very true.
Hey, we haven't gotten to this, and we're kind of running out of time, but you have a retreat coming up at Myrtle Beach in October. Tell people about this Women's Beach Retreat. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, I love doing this retreat. This will be my 5th time doing a Women's Beach Retreat. And it's actually just south of Myrtle Beach. But anyway, so it's in South Carolina. It's limited to a small number of women and very intimate. Of course, we're going to use our Akashic records. We're going to do tapping. We're going to do meditation. We've got somebody coming in to do a sound healing for us. We're going to do some yoga, some dancing, some sunrise walk on the beach using that sacred walking meditation that I mentioned that's on Insight Timer. It was actually created for the 2019 Women's Retreat. So I just love the opportunity to support women and coming together and getting into connection, especially after the pandemic. I mean, so many relationships are just, how many people are lonely today, right? Because we've spent so much time alone. So just getting in a safe space where you can be yourself and you can be seen and heard and supported. I just love it. Love it. Love it.
That is fabulous. And from what you were telling me before we got started, there's only a couple of spots open. So by the time it should be closed out. But it's still good to know about it because maybe they can catch the next one.
Right. Well, yeah, I was going to say right here at the beginning of September. So whenever you watch this, there's still 4 spaces left.
There are 4 left on September 1st. So yeah.
Yeah, on September 1st for October 20th. So there's still a few weeks here. 6, 7 weeks, whatever that is. Yeah.
There's a chance. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. But I just realized too, I got to fill in one gap on the story that I didn't fill in. I mentioned the 2 cats that we had to deliver to the shelter, and it was not a no-kill shelter. After we finished the move to Connecticut, we were able to find homes from afar for them in Virginia.
Nice.
Aww.
Yeah. So even that part worked out nicely.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. I can tell you something else that's worked out nicely, and that's been your return visit. This has been great.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this has been
Great
fun.
segue. I love that.
It's been, thank you. Yeah. Well, it has been a lot of fun. And, something I've been doing more and more now. I want to make sure I do it here too. In the course of what you have been doing with your life, particularly since you became a coach and so forth, you write, you give retreats, you teach, you come onto podcasts, you do all that kind of stuff. A lot of people who you've never met, who you've never seen, hear what you have to say. They read what you have to say, and so on and so forth. And you've touched many, many lives, as so many of us have who do this kind of work. But we don't hear about that. We don't get recognized for it. So on their behalf, I want to thank you for what you do, because what you do is very, very important.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that. And the same to you. I didn't realize that LOA Today had been around that many years. So how many years have you been doing this now?
10 years this month. Yeah.
10 years. Wow. Yeah. And it's 10 years that I've been doing what I'm doing too.
So there you go.
That's interesting. Yeah. 2012 was a big shift for a lot of people, right?
I guess so. Yeah. Good thing too.
Well, thank you for, pointing that out, that we do forget about the ripples in the pond, right?
They're important. A lot of people's lives have been touched and continue to be touched. And they don't really have a way to reach out. Some of them do, but most don't really either feel that they can or they don't notice an easy way to do it. So they can't really reach out and say thanks, but I'm sure many people want to. So that's why I want to thank people on their behalf, because I can be a voice for them.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So,
very well said.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for what you do too. I mean, you touch a lot of people's lives as well. So you deserve to be thanked as well. You do
somebody's trying to reach out and touch Alex right now.
Right now, there it is. Yeah, see? It's proof positive. I'm telling you. All right. So thank you guys very much. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.